Welcome to Code Then. This is the first video anyways. And in this slide, we're going to talk about getting started with programming. I am Robert Doe and I'm going to be your instructor for this session. Let's get started. So what at all is programming? Well, the text is already on the screen, so I guess you know what we are all about. We are going to be talking about how we use computers to solve problems. When I say problems, I mean our daily life problems. I don't want this to look like a lecture or anything of that sort. So, pardon me if I'm using a slide and making it look like an unnatural encounter. But, anyways, you are going to enjoy it. I can promise you that. All right. So, I don't want to be reading. Basically, you see what's on the screen. We write instructions to the computer, just like we communicate with each other in the human form, and then the computer is going to perform those tasks and instructions. So without wasting a lot of time over here, let's look at who writes a program. Anyone who writes a program is known as a programmer. Well, anyway, I think the name says it all. And a programmer is anyone who would give an instruction. But what's an instruction? Well, let's proceed. We'll get it. Now, let's come back to our normal setting. In our daily lives, people communicate with us and then we give out responses. And so, let's go back to the house. Okay. When I say we go back to the house, what I mean is in a normal setting, in the house, we are given a household chore. They give you the chore in a language that you understand. I mean, the particular task you are supposed to do. Okay. So they communicate with you in a language you will understand. And so a language in the programming sense is a set of vocabulary. When we talk about languages, we have the French, the English, and the rest. They have rules for communicating or using that particular language. And those rules in programming we refer to as syntax. Not all statements are valid or acceptable in such a language or in any language at all. So a programming language is a set of vocabulary and a grammar rules for instructing a computer to perform particular task. So in the English language, we cannot say he is go. No. Although all the words that I just mentioned are part of the English language, but we cannot arrange them that way, which means there is a rule for using the English language, and that is known as the grammar rules or the syntax. We'll know more about this in detail, but for now, let's follow along. Just like we have the English language, the tree, the fancy, the Ga, and the rest of the other language that I never mentioned, okay, I can see we have German language, Spanish, and the rest. Communicating with a computer requires us to use a language that the computer will understand. But on the screen, I've displayed some languages that a computer wouldn't understand. And these languages are Python, Basic, C, and the rest. I'm saying the computer wouldn't understand it because the computer does not understand English and mathematics. So I'll talk about which language at all the computer understands. The language that a computer understands is known as the machine language. Now let's come back to our local setting. If I am from Western region and that makes me speak the Fanti language. Fanti language is my native language. So to speak to me, you will have to speak Fanti. Let's just say I understand another language again, and that language is English. But because I was raised in the Western region, I understand Fanti into detail. So for you to speak English to me, I will convert my English to my Fanti before I am able to get what you want me to do. So just like the computer does not understand the English, The Python language, the basic, the C, and all those ones are written in English. And so to be able to instruct the computer to do one particular thing for you, you would have to talk to the computer in the language that it understands. Computer only understands circuitry languages, and by circuitry languages I mean zeros and ones. It's either something is off or something is on. So either it's high or it's low. That's basically what the computer understands. And we cannot speak to the computer. When you speak to the computer and it does what you want, it means that something is in the background trying to translate whatever you are doing. So right now, on the screen, we have Python as a language, just like we have English or Spanish as a language, Basic as a language, and all these are English and maths. Now, how do we get a computer to understand what we would want? Let's follow along. The computer understands what we call the machine language. And so to be able to communicate with the computer, you need to feed it with a language that's in the form of zeros and ones. So this is basically how computers themselves communicate with each other. Just like we speak tree, lega, ever to each other. Computer also does this. When they are communicating, this is what goes on in the background. One will say 00011010101. Let's see. So basically that's what I understand. They understand. Computers understand only the machine language, and so this is what happens in the background. The orange one will send the black one, but basically it's all in the form of zeros and ones. I'd like to give this example. When your phone battery goes low, you can only revive it by plugging in the charger. The charger to your phone. It receives electrical signals, and that's the only language your phone battery understands. Your phone battery is in your phone, and your phone is a computer. So because electrical devices understands only electronic messages or the signals, just like the zeros and ones that we talked about, connecting your charger is another way of instructing your computer to increase the battery percentage. In this sense, anyone would understand exactly their hardware language. When I say the hardware language, it's more or less what we call the mother tongue. So in this case, the computers are communicating with each other. Computers are communicating with each other in a language within which they understand, which is the machine language. All right. What about a human trying to communicate with a computer? So this over here is a man, and the man is trying to speak with this computer. So he's going to write it like how we write our letters or our emails. Do this particular stuff for me, or display this on the screen. But the computer does not understand what the human is saying. And so someone needs to come in to do the conversion. Just like we go to the church, we have the tree speaking, or we have the local language group, and we have the English speaking pastor, and he'll be standing there talking about brothers and sisters. And the tree people or the Gan people, they don't understand the English. That's not an ethnic something. Just follow along. And so because they don't understand the English, someone who understands both Ga and English has to come in and then translate the stuff into the Ga language or the local language. Okay, let me say local language so I'm not misconstrued. All right, so a man tries to speak with a machine speaking the English language. Basically, it doesn't work. So we need a translator just like in the church. And we get a translator. Translator converts whatever the man is saying into the machine language, because that's the only thing that the computer understands, and then the computer will get it. So a translator comes in to explain what the human is saying into machine language. Now let's talk about the kinds of translators that we have. We all know that with someone speaking a language to you, you need someone to more or less explain into your own language. In a computer sense, we have 3 translators, but for simplicity's sake, I brought in only 2. We have one translator that does the explanation at a go will convert everything once for you. So let's think of a gossiper, or someone we usually call the gossip. Don't mark my grammar, I'm only teaching programming. And so a gossiper will go and listen to some information somewhere, and I will come back, tell you everything, will not leave anything untold. You understand? So a gossiper is more or less like the computer compiler. I'll get back to the compiler. In the church setting, the pastor will be preaching, and when the pastor is preaching, what he does is he will speak his English, and then the translator, the man usually dressed in some big suit, will be explaining every line that the pastor gives. So look at the two differences, or look at the two components that we just talked about. The interpreter will make sure that one line is finished, it will translate it before it goes to the next line. The compiler, it came to do what it has to do. It will say everything at a goal, and then it will be done. Both have their advantages and then their disadvantages. Do find out more. That's why we'll be ending the session. And on the screen, we can see benefits of programming. What at all do we get after learning programming? Well, do find out more. That's why we'll be ending. Do watch out for the next video.